Hey there everyone, my name is Chantel, and welcome to another Riviera-PRO video. In this video, I will be going over the design structure windows, which are datasets, hierarchy, and objects. And alongside the hierarchy window, I'll show how to use the find and hierarchy window. All these windows are dedicated to displaying, analyzing, browsing, and exploring your design hierarchy. And they can be very useful to look at during debugging and simulation. For this video, I've already got one of Riviera-PRO's provided example designs loaded. This counter design can be found under the VHDL subset folder of examples. Now I'll go ahead and compile my design. And now I'll switch over to the debug perspective. As you can see by default, the datasets, hierarchy, and objects windows are all located in this perspective. Datasets and hierarchy overlap by default, so I'm going to undock the datasets window and move it right above hierarchy. This way, I will be able to see how all these windows will interact. And right now, all three windows are empty since no simulation was initialized and no simulation datasets were loaded in. Now I'll go ahead and initialize simulation. You'll now notice that all three of these design structure windows now have content inside. So let's talk about these windows now. This is the dataset window. If not already on your screen, you can open up the window by clicking on this button here. When a simulation is initialized, the simulation engine creates a simulation dataset and sets that as active. This window presents those simulation databases that store the current simulation results, and can also present offline simulation data gathered in the past. It's inclusive to coverage databases and profiler databases too. And when there are multiple datasets loaded into the window, you can select which one is the active one by clicking on it. Which dataset you choose can also affect the hierarchy and object window, which I'll show later. By right-clicking at the top of the column headers, you can select what information you'd like to display, such as name, context, path, and resolution. Right-clicking inside of the space opens up the context menu. In this menu, you can add datasets, compare datasets, save a snapshot of a dataset, and generate coverage reports. Now let's move on to the hierarchy window. This window displays a structure of an elaborated design of the currently selected dataset. To access this window, just click on this button. Here, you can view the hierarchy of your currently simulated design, the structure of a project in offline simulation mode, and even the coverage data that was collected. As you can see, the complete design hierarchy is shown starting from top level, and additional info is shown as well. As you expand the design, you go further down the hierarchy tree, in which these design regions would be considered the leaves. Some of the additional information displayed are the library names, name of the design unit, the type of object, and more. Like the dataset viewer, just right-click at the top where the column headers are, and enable the column info you'd like to display. In this window's context menu, you can add the unit's signals to a waveform or other elements, perform cumulative coverage settings, show the source of the hierarchy element, and set that hierarchy element to the current region. This window also has a little toolbar to help filter and look for a particular element of the design tree. You can type it out in this filter combo box, and toggle regular expressions when using the combo box. And you could specify the attributes you want to see. Then when you're done searching, just click on this reset button. Now, if you have a pretty complex design, there's a tool called Find in Hierarchy that would be useful. To access this, click on this button here. You could search for design-specific objects in the selected design region, the current dataset, or even all the datasets attached. There are also two tabs, one for nodes and one for objects. Nodes are items related to the hierarchy of your design, like instances and statements. And objects are region-specific items, such as ports and signals. Each tab has their own parameters that you could specify when performing your search. As an example, I'm just going to look for clear in the Objects tab. Once I click Find, the hierarchy find results will pop up and give me my results. Last but not least, we have the Objects window. You can access this by clicking on this button. This window displays design objects coming from the design region selected in the hierarchy windows. Notice that when I click on a different design region in the hierarchy window, the list of objects changes relative to the currently selected region. Like the other windows, right-clicking on the header columns lets you enable more information to see, such as event, type of object, and even toggle coverage statistics. The context menu allows you to add individual signals to waveforms and other various elements, utilize toggle coverage, and set signal breakpoints. The toolbar in this window allows you to filter through objects with settings identical to the hierarchy window. Now I'm going to add a dataset into my design. And now look at how the added dataset has a different name. When I click on it to set it as active, notice how the object and hierarchy windows change. Now I'll set my original dataset as the active dataset again. And now I'm going to add the test bench signals to a waveform and run the simulation. In my waveform view, I'm going to enable the dataset column. Now let's say I want to compare the results of this Q0 signal to my current simulation with the results of the same signal in a previous simulation. All I would need to do is highlight the added dataset I want to compare, head over to the Objects window and find my signal, and then add it into the waveform. If I'm not careful about setting the right dataset as active, I might not add the signal that I wanted. So make sure to be aware of which dataset you have set as active. So now, thanks to the dataset column, I can see what dataset the signal is from to avoid confusion. And I can just click and drag to move the signal so that the two identical signals are together, and I can easily compare the results side by side. And that's about it for this video. Knowing what you can do with these design structure windows can make viewing your design structure a lot less complicated and can be useful when debugging, just like for this waveform example. Thank you for watching.